Hey, everybody, and welcome back to number four, our fourth episode of the Family Church podcast.
Yeah.
And we're excited that you're following, that you're joining us today. Today, we have a special podcast. You know, our Family Church podcast really is geared to the local church. We want to equip both pastors and lay people to give insight into how to do church in a post-COVID, post-Christian 21st century context. And as we've mentioned several times up to this point, we're a church of multis, multi-campus, multi-ethnic, multi-generational. And today joining us will be Charles Cooper, who is one of our teaching pastors. He teaches at our East Winter Garden campus, and you're going to hear more about that. But before we get to Coop, as always, I'm joined by...
I'm Felipe Mendez. I am online pastor here at Family Church and also your only host for this podcast.
And by the way, our next podcast, I'll be interviewing Felipe about the online community and the role that plays into a 21st century context. So, hey, Coop, it's good to see you, man. We have known each other for about 25 years, and you have been on staff now. How long?
This is year 3 completed for beginning.
Yeah, you're in year 4 of being on staff, and you lead our East Winter Garden campus. Tell people a little bit about the demographics of the area and how that plays into our multicultural model and the benefits you see in that.
Oh, absolutely. It's a southern style city. In that, there were segments of the town, and so like so many towns in the South, black people lived in a certain section, Anglo lives in the next section, other people, and so they had these sections. And so each Winter Garden has the largest African-American population of the Winter Garden area, which is why we wanted to go in there, because there were issues that we felt like we could address. And so going in, we find out actually that there is an Anglo section, there is an African-American section, there's now a growing Hispanic section. And so you have these multicultural experiences right there together within a mile and a half of each other. And our church is perfectly located, the building that is, in that we're right on the edge so that we don't really belong to any one of those. Therefore, everybody can come if they want, which is the perfect way to do it. And we are able to, because of the mix, having not only African-Americans, Anglos, as well as Hispanic, we're able to mix very well in that our services are designed to be multicultural in their flavor. In terms of the music, in terms of who's standing at the door greeting people. And all of that is made possible because of the model of church that Family Church adopted before I got here, before I came. They decided to be a multi-campus church and to plant churches, campuses in communities wherever they are. So whoever's in the community, that's who we reach.
That's it.
So in the East Winter Garden, we're reaching African Americans as well as Anglos as well as Hispanic. I'm excited about it because having planted 3 churches, one that just started in my living room with my wife and a few friends, that's a very difficult way to do it. Planning a church that was Hive, that is, a certain number of people left this congregation to go plant over there. And now this model, Pastor Chuck, that you have developed here, which to me is the easiest, most wonderful, celebrated, everybody should be doing it. Because
he just got a raise right there.
That's right.
It's so much easier to do because of the branding and already having an established network and then having staff. Having a minister of music say that's over all the campuses that's able to give direction to each program individually, but as campus-wide, and then to pull talent from all of those, it just makes doing what you want to do, which is to reach people, so much easier to do.
Cool.
And, you know, for us as a church, being multicultural, it enriches everything.
Absolutely. It absolutely does.
I do think, and we mentioned this on the last podcast, most people, when they think of heaven, they think I'm going to be up there singing Hillsong music in English.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, when we gather together as the church for big church events, and we're singing in Portuguese, and we're singing in Spanish.
Absolutely.
And you look around at the different skin tones in the room. It's a reminder of what heaven's going to be like.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we're able to learn more about each other's culture and appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like one of the things, we're a church of small groups.
Correct.
Right? Well, in the Anglo culture, that means you're going to have a Tuesday night Bible study in somebody's home.
Correct.
Not so much in your community, right?
No, they'll come to a central building, but they're not going to go to each other's homes.
Yeah, so and we're able to facilitate all of those things.
Exactly.
And also, tell us a little bit about. And by the way, I do need to mention this: that our East Winter Garden campus meets at our Dream Center.
Correct.
And our Dream Center is in that community to do exactly what you talked about: community transformation.
Correct.
You were the one who got the Dream Center started. And
Loved
you
it.
not only were the director, but you were the architect, the builder.
Building, carpet layer, floor layer.
Yeah, the
We did it all.
janitor, program manager. You did everything.
We did it all. And if the dream of having that Dream Center there and using it as a conduit for people to come to Christ and to find a place where they could spiritually grow, we've seen that. One of the key families that we've reached had no dental. We brought in a mobile dental unit. They came to the dental unit, found out about the church, and now have become one of the more active families in our church. And it brought eight family members.
It's just so natural to layer those things.
It
right?
is.
So,
It's magnificent.
yeah, and by the way, for those who are watching and are familiar, it's the West Orange Dream Center.
West Orange Dream Center.
You can go online and Google that. There's always some need for volunteers, need for materials, because you go into the community and provide some things.
Exactly.
And of course, we'll always take money, right?
Exactly.
And but you grew that to the point where we brought in a director for the Dream Center, and now you're giving most of your time to the East Winter Garden campus, along with Jobs Partnership, which is still tied to the Dream Center.
This is so beautiful.
I am so excited because yesterday the city of Winter Garden, they knew we were there, but they weren't paying attention, which is fine. But they found out yesterday all the things that we were doing, and they were blown away that we not only are servicing the elderly, because we have an outreach to an elderly program, we have children's programs, we have adults, we have job training, skill development. They had no idea of all the things that we're doing and all the lives that we're touching and the radical transformation. And one of the most radical things that has happened is older Anglo men, businessmen, who have their time dedicated to mentoring one boy. And one of those boys, when we first touched his life, I mean, he was, ADHD, ADD. I mean, just can't sit down, just bouncy, just not able to focus. And he has spent so much time with him, one-on-one, working with him, that he is an absolute model of what you would want to see in the life of a young man who statistically, at the third grade, was determined to would-be prison population because of the way they rate them. They can tell, he will not be.
That's awesome.
Amen.
As a direct result of the type of program they're doing at the Dream Center.
And this is beautiful. This is something that I really like to highlight over here, because some people don't see the work that the church is being doing here in our community or in your local community.
Correct.
Some people are pretty much just like, church only cares about money, church only cares about building, or they're not preaching the truth. But on a daily, like on an everyday situation, and people really needs a new job, need to learn a new skill, need to be fed, need to have a dental treatment. And the Dream Center and our church is doing this for them.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were sharing Jesus' parable of sheep and goats, right? I was hungry, you fed me. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was naked, you clothed me. I was in prison, you visited me. There are a lot of great social programs out there, but what makes this unique is the gospel's tied into it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And so...
But I have no interest in just social.
Absolutely. No. Absolutely. This is meeting their physical needs to reach them spiritually.
Correct.
Which is so awesome.
Correct.
And so tell us just a little bit more about a service and kind of what I might experience if I went there.
Well, of course, now we've gone to 2 services, and the first service is really designed for in-depth teaching of the Word of God. People want to grow. People want to go deep in the Word. They want to have more because they've been in church and they've been around church. And so we've dedicated that. The second service is a service you probably need to wear a seatbelt.
It is. I've been there, and it's Baptist.
Yeah, all the way. It's designed for to be inspirational, to be uplifting and encouraging, and to be evangelistic, to give people how the gospel should impact their lives and what it should look like. Yeah. So the 11 o'clock service we're very excited about because we're looking at a new member coming on to add to that who has tremendous capacity with younger people and able to reach them through music and worship. So it's dynamic, it's ever changing, it's never the same. And the one criticism that I hope no one ever makes of the East Winter Garden campus is that it's boring.
Yeah, it's definitely not that.
No, Christ should never be boring.
Yes. So we have you here today, so I want to take advantage of that. You know that we're preaching right now at Family Church a series called Why. We started on Easter talking about why the resurrection is so important, why the church, everybody needs to be plugged in, ministering in a local church. This week, going to talk about why is America in such a mess?
Yeah.
You know, but in part of this series, we've said, well, if you have why questions, submit those and we'll try to answer some of those.
Correct.
And you're doing that through reels and things on social media, Troy, and all.
That is correct.
But since you're here, let's throw out one of the big ones for you, okay? And for those who don't know, Coop, very well educated. You were a homiletics professor in Moody, right?
Correct.
And actually came to Orlando as one of the theologians, Bible experts for the Holy Land experience, Scriptorium. So one of the questions, age-old question people always ask, if God is so loving, why does he let people suffer? And so just share for a moment your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a great question. People ask it all the time because usually they're going through difficult situations. There are actually 2 avenues to it. The avenue of a person who does not put his faith in God, is not trusting the Lord to lead his life, why he may be suffering or bad things happening in his life is a totally different question from a person who faith in God, who walks with God, believes in God, and to some degree probably expects life to be easier. So why do bad things happen in the life of believers or people committed to Jesus Christ? And there are 3 reasons, and there are only 3. There aren't any more. Number 1, it could be the result of choices you've made. It could have been choices in your past, or it could be choices that you've made in present. We make bad choices, and choices have consequences. And you may be suffering as a result of bad choices. A good friend of mine, when he was in the world, was riotous in his living, acquired a liver disease, and it has affected him for the rest of his life. That was because of the choices he made. That's number 1. Number 2, it could be for discipline or growth from God. God disciplines his children, and if you are engaged in conduct that is unbecoming to a follower of Christ, God may in fact introduce something into your life to break your habit, or he may be allowing you to grow. Fertilizer, suffering is the best fertilizer there is for Christian growth. And God does allow that to come into your life through various circumstances and situations. The third one is probably the most unknown one. Most people, they naturally assume that they've done something bad and God is beating them over the head with it. Now, the third one is the most important one, and most Christians are totally ignorant. And that is, suffering is God's avenue for you to gain the reward that he himself, the Father, has set aside for you. As you know, in the Jewish family, every boy born gets a position. The oldest, firstborn, and then right down the line. And each one receives an inheritance according to his position and his faithfulness. Jesus, as God's firstborn, it tells us that he endured the cross, despising the shame, in light of what was promised to him by his father, and that is that he would be given a throne to sit on next to the Father's throne to govern the earth, and we then found out later that it would be for a significant period of time. Each one of us also have been given our born right, and that right is maintained by obedience, and God will often allow circumstances. And if you want to read a story that is the teaching of this, you read the book of Job. It says Job was a perfect man, which means he wasn't being punished because he'd done something wrong, because the Bible said 3 times he was perfect. He wasn't being taught that in order to grow, because he was already a very mature man and handled his suffering better than anyone that I know could have handled it. So that wasn't the reason. And God says that I allowed Job to be attacked so that I could show the devil that my servant Job would honor me and that I would receive honor from his life. The second story you should read, of course, is in John chapter 9, because in John chapter 9 you have a story of a man born blind, and they put the question to Jesus, why was this man born blind? His mama must have did something wrong, or his daddy, or he kicked too hard in his stomach.
Question.
But somebody caused that problem. Jesus said it was neither that this man sinned, which nor his parents, and it's the word parent that doesn't mean mama and daddy, it means generational, because his grandfather could have done something and he's being punished to the 3rd and 4th generation. So anyway, Jesus' answer was neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this has been allowed in his life, being born blind, that God might be glorified through the opportunities of his life, which is exactly what happened. He gets his name in the Bible. Thousands of people have been saved as a result of his story, and that came as a result of the grace of God allowing him this great opportunity. So remember, it doesn't have to be because you've been bad. It doesn't have to be because God is punishing you. It could be that God is giving you an opportunity. Take it with joy, because it may result in your reward greatly in heaven.
Amen.
Wow.
Amen.
What a class.
And let's remind ourselves, none of that would even be a question if it wasn't for chapter 3.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. For God.
Yeah. Genesis 3, right? Yeah. We rebelled against God.
Exactly.
And one of the other things in that, first of all, James tells us rejoice when we face those trials. Your number 2 point, because it'll grow us, right?
That's right.
But what's really interesting, and your third point, is that the way we handle suffering is a testimony to the world.
Exactly.
Right.
To angels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Coop, thank you for joining us. And Felipe knows this. Every time we do a podcast, I finish it with somebody has to say
Somebody
it.
has to say it.
There are things that are going on in our world that nobody will say, but somebody has to say it. Like, we already mentioned. Yesterday I was at Publix.
Okay.
10 items or less. And I heard that scanner beep 14 times in the person in front. They should have got out of that line, got over into one that was appropriate, right? So here's somebody has to say it today.
Okay.
And that is drive up ATM etiquette. All right. So when you're going through the ATM at the drive up, you want to go in there, get your money, get out.
Correct.
All right.
True.
I have sat behind like 3 cars. So you know it's going to be a while for each one of those cars. But here's the one that kills me. The car in front of me pulls up, and it's a precious old lady.
Oh, yeah.
She stops. She then reaches over, and you can see that she gets her purse.
Right.
She puts her purse in her lap. She digs through her purse, and she finds her wallet. In her wallet, she finds her ATM card. She puts it in, presses about 500 buttons. I have no clue what she's trying to do. And I'm sitting back there already, right? I'm in a hurry. Finally, she gets her money, and here's what she does. She counts her money.
Yep.
She puts it back in her wallet.
Yes.
She puts the wallet back into the purse, then puts the purse
Back in
into the seat, and then decides to drop off,
Yeah.
drive off.
Yeah.
Drive up.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody has to say it. Listen, woman, while we're sitting there with 4 cars in front of you, get your purse, Get your wallet, get the card out. When you pull up, roll your window down, get your money, drive off, and then put your money in your wallet
purse,
and your purse
baby.
and back on the seat. That's why
right.
somebody has to say it.
That is
for
so
the
funny.
day.
Well, you cannot make fun of this for too long because I will be the guy in the back, and you will be the old dude right there, wasting my time.
Okay, believe me, we're out of time.
I know.
Send us out of here, brother. Send us out of here.
All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us for today's podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe. This podcast is available on Apple. It's available on Spotify. You can also subscribe us on YouTube, and then you're going to get a new episode every other week. And Chuck and I were going to bring guests like Cooper, and I can't wait to see you next time.